You know, we don't sit down and talk about the Noah story as just this great story where a bunch of animals got saved. We talk about sin and depravity and why God sent the flood. You know, we don't use children's Bibles. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there is you teach your children the truth so that when they grow up and they run into Bart Ehrman or whoever else, they don't run into a buzzsaw. I'll give you an example. Dr. James White, his daughter is named Summer. I talk to her online sometimes, and she was on the cruise. Summer White has grown up in Dr. James White's house, and he was a textual critic and teacher, and he was also on the New American Standard Bible. He was one of the persons that was on the committee to edit the New American Standard Bible. So he is far and above me or most anybody I've ever met on the issue of texts and understanding Greek manuscripts, things like that. Dr. White's daughter came into he sent her to public school, which I thought was great. You know, because a lot of times we keep our kids in boxes, which is fine. I like Christian school, but he sent her to private or public school so that she could experience the onslaught of opposition to her faith. Well, she got to public college, and her first professor, and I don't even think his name was Dr. Lee Carter, but I don't know what subject he was teaching. I think it was biology. He just said, everything you believe is a lie. It's all a lie. Bart Ehrman told us it's all a lie. And she's like, my dad's about to debate Bart Ehrman. And ultimately the point is she's got MP3 recordings that I've heard of this man cussing in class, calling the Bible a joke and a terrible thing and all. I mean, and this is public education, public school. And he got running the wrong girl. Because he ran into somebody who'd actually grew up in a home where these things were taught. And every other student that he's probably had come through there has not had an answer, not been able to give a defense for the hope that's within the First Peter 3:15. But she was.
You know what's funny is you don't hear people getting together with groups to disprove Bigfoot. There's some reason that these guys get together because they feel threatened. You know what I mean? And it's weird that they get together. They're forming they're saying our work is futile, that ultimately they're trying to work together for something they believe that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So whose work is futile?
The anti-Bigfoot society. We'll call them the the Sasquatchuans instead of the atheists. They're the Sasquatchuans. So let's look at our first lesson. We're going to stay on the first page today. We may get to the back page, but as you all know, that's probably not possible for me anyway. The first thing I want us to look at is what revelation is. When we say there are 4 links in the revelation process, the revelatory process, well, what is revelation anyway? The definition of revelation comes from the Greek word apokalypsis, and it means to unveil or to disclose something. From the Oxford Companion to the Bible, it is said this: revelation has to do with the disclosing, uncovering, or unveiling what previously was hidden, making known what has been secret. When used theologically, revelation refers to God's deliberate manifestation of his plans, his character, and himself. That's what revelation is. Revelation is God revealing himself to man. Now, in my sermon this morning, I'm going to talk about the fact that that's very good, because if God doesn't reveal himself to us, we can't just find him out. Now, we can know he's there, and that's what general revelation is. You'll notice under categories of revelation, I put 2 categories. General revelation teaches us that God exists. The first one is nature. Nature teaches us that God exists. How? Because within nature there is an order that tells us of an intelligent designer. Order does not come from disorder. Chaos does not create that which is unchaotic or working in an orderly fashion. Thus, when we look at nature and we look at how the trees develop and we look at how our bodies develop and our body's ability to do the things that it can do, such as constructing tissue and fixing itself and doing all of these various things, we realize that nature itself declares that God exists. In fact, Psalm 19 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. Their expanse is declaring the work of his hands." The Bible tells us nature can show us that God exists. Providence also shows us that God exists. What is providence? Providence is the order of the world, not just orderly in nature, but the fact that there is obviously a direction of man. There is obviously things that are going on in the world that are being directed by a force. For instance, the Bible says the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Is that true? The Bible does. Wouldn't you think it would be kind of weird if only, if rain never fell where people were bad? Be kind of an interesting thing that if, okay, you were bad this week, you don't get any rain or you don't get any sunshine, or we're going to block out, kind of like the old cartoon where you see the rain cloud over the one person walking around. There is a certain amount of providence being seen. We can see providence. If you look at the history of the church, you can see providential hand of God moving the direction. For instance, we see leaders that are risen to power for the purpose of blessing, and we see leaders who are risen to power for the purpose of judgment on a nation. You look at the history of Israel, and you will see the providential hand of God throughout. The third thing we see in general revelation is conscience. How many of you ever saw the movie Short Circuit? I know you two have, and you. Okay.
I can quote it if you like.
No, I'm good. In the movie Short Circuit, the movie basically is this. It's about a robot who receives a conscience. And what happens in the movie is nobody wants to believe that he's alive. He keeps saying, Johnny 5 is alive. Nobody wants to believe it. And the thing that convinces the doctor is the doctor who created him says, you were created to destroy things. You're created as a weapon. And he said, but I can't because it's wrong to kill. And he said, who told you it was wrong? He said, I told me it was wrong. Now, that's not theologically accurate, but here's the point. There is something inside of us that tells us right from wrong. Now, because of our depravity, we gravitate towards that which is wrong, but the conscience still exists. Children know shame and guilt when they lie, or when they steal, or when they say something that they know hurts their parents, say a bad word or something. They know an instinct that they've hurt or that they've done wrong. They hide it. What did Adam and Eve do as soon as they sinned? They tried to cover their sin. What do children do as soon as they do something wrong? Children will lie. I have 2 children of my own. And you catch one doing something they're not supposed to do, and they will lie. But immediately, you all know this as a fact. I don't have to prove this at all. Immediately upon that, there is the feeling of guilt, because you know you have erred. That's conscience. Now, these 3 things, nature, providence, and conscience, are what we call general revelation. And by that I mean this. That simply shows us there's something out there more than just the natural.
Is this why you would see, like in remote tribes in Africa, that they're worshiping gods? Because they know that there is a God. Now in their ignorance, they've attributed to gods of sun, gods of rain and stuff. Is that general revelation that you're referring to? That they know that there is a ultimate creator, but in their own ignorance, they don't know who that creator is.
I think more so, people tend to create gods because every person wants the blessing of God without the being of God.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the ignorance of somebody in Africa, that's one thing. But just looking at, why do people create idols anyway? Because there are people in America who create idols, and they know Jesus Christ, they've been to church, but they still create idols. Why? because rather than wanting the God who is, they rebel towards a God of their own making.
Kind of like Israel did it.
Yeah,
After-
Israel
after
made a
walk-
golden calf. Why?
After walking through the Red Sea parted.
Because they want the blessing without the being. Yes, dear.
Is this where people get all have been called because of nature?
No, I think that what we have to remember is that in general revelation, when we talk about general revelation, separate from special revelation, is that general revelation simply gives us enough information to know that God exists, but not enough information to save us. That is what evangelism is for. That's why we take the gospel out, is because people naturally have enough information to condemn them, but not enough information to save